Hello. I'm going to bring up your slide and get you started.
Thank you. Now we have one video on the slides and we're curious how that
Thank you for letting me know. I will when I do that. I'm going to give a quick welcome everybody and just a quick housekeeping before I turn it over to Gabby and the rest of the team. And I know your panelists may you're missing a couple, they may come in, or just one. She may come in and hopefully everything will work out okay with Sheila's audio. But I'll get us started and you can run through introductions and panelists. If you need any more help getting in, just direct message me on the ANS staff account. I will be here in the background the entire time and on mute, okay? So first of all, everyone, welcome again to this next panel. And let me give you a quick housekeeping. Use the chat in the session chat to ask questions and interact with other audience members. And while you're chatting, please remember all of our conference expectations: positive experience, step up, step back, freedom of expression, connect with people, and don't make assumptions. And you can always message me on the ANS staff account or call or text the conference helpline or email if you have an experience of harassment in any way. This panel is not being bilingually interpreted, but at the end of the segment, please be sure to take a quick 5-star feedback poll that I will turn on just as the panelists are wrapping up. So with that, I will turn it over to Gabby.
Thanks, Eliza. And Isabel said she's in, but it's not giving her the option to share her video and audio.
Isabel is in, but doesn't see the blue button to share her video and audio. I will work with her on direct message while you guys get started. Okay, Isabel, I see you direct message me. I'm going to take it from here.
Okay, and 1 second. All right. Well, as we wait for Isabel, I will just get started, I guess, with introducing myself and our panelists. So hello, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Rofe, and I'm the Manager of Equity and Community Engagement at Chesapeake Conservancy. And I'm a partnership staff with the National Park Service Chesapeake Bay Gateways Network. And I'm so thrilled to introduce you to this panel of wonderful, wonderful humans. I have been working in this field for over 10 years now, and I am just reflecting on when I first started my career in conservation, and I told my dad, you know, I want to study the environment, I want to study conservation, and he's like, what is conservation? Like, I don't even know what that means. He's from Mexico, and it just wasn't a thing that he understood. Maybe it was a language barrier. But I was like, oh, don't worry, Dad, it's an up and coming field. There's going to be plenty of jobs in this field. And, you know, I promise there'll be lots of money in it one day. And he trusted me and he let me go for it. And I spent the past 10 years as a community organizer, working in environmental justice communities, traveling across the country, working with communities that were very diverse. And one thing that I've found, as many of you probably understand, is that I've usually been the only Spanish speaker working at whichever organization that I'm at. I often feel lost within the work that I'm doing. And I've also noticed that there's a huge gap in the connection between the conservation movement and the environmental field and the communities that we're trying to serve. And so when I came back to Maryland, which is home, I'm here in Baltimore, I really wanted to make a difference in the movement and help to shift our systems. And one opportunity that came up was at Sandy Point State Park, which is a Maryland state park in Annapolis. It's right next to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. It's one of the only public access points for the Chesapeake Bay. And 80% of the users of this park identify as Spanish-speaking, Hispanic or Latino. And we found that out through a study that we did with the National Park Service in 2015. And there were barely any people on staff who spoke Spanish. There were nature programs going on every single day, and only 3% of the users even knew that there were nature programs happening. So once again, a huge opportunity, a missed opportunity to engage a community that is using that park and that is right there in the Bay, utilizing the bay, and most of them didn't even know that it was the Chesapeake Bay. Most people thought that it was the ocean. So one program that we started as a partnership between Chesapeake Conservancy, the National Park Service, Chesapeake Bay Office, and the Gateways Network, and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, was to create and pilot a bilingual interpretive outreach program at Sandy Point State Park 2 years ago. So we were able to hire Julian, Segovia, and Daniel Solomon, who isn't with us here today on the panel, but they were our pilot first bilingual rangers at the park. And they really showcased what it might look like to hire young Latinos from the community to do community engagement and to reach that audience. And so that program has grown. We were able to bring on some fellows and more people. Sheila with the Latino Heritage Internship Program with the National Park Service, and Isabel Layton, who is also hopefully getting onto the panel here in a moment. And I just want to say that I am so motivated and inspired by them. They have been such a pleasure to work with, and they have inspired me that the future of this movement is shifting because of the ways that they have connected to the community, the innovation and the creativity that they bring to their work, and most importantly, the passion that they have for diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice within this movement. And so I'm just like so thrilled to know them and to, I honestly like they work for me, but I feel like I work for them. I'm really excited for them to showcase all of the wonderful work that they've done and answer some great questions at the end. So they're going to give a presentation on the work that they've done, and we'll all get to learn from their wonderful experiences. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and their stories because no one says it best than themselves. So we will go ahead with the next slide, and I'm just going to put myself on mute and let them go ahead. Sheila, can you hear everything now? Is everything squared away? And Isabel, you're in? All right.
Sheila, can you hear and
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm kind of having a little bit of some audio issues, but thumbs up if you can see me or hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, good morning. I hope everyone is having a wonderful week so far. And my name is Sheila, and this summer I was the communications assistant for the National Park Service Chesapeake Bay office through the Latino Heritage Internship Program. And so a little bit about myself is my parents left their beloved home state of Guerrero, Mexico in the 80s and in search for greater opportunities. And I was born and raised here in Southern California. And I was introduced into the outdoor lifestyle very early on. I can't even begin to tell you how quickly I became fascinated and passionate about nature. And so I spent my whole life camping, hiking, just learning about nature. And so I learned very early on that I wanted to work within the National Park Service. I'm a recent graduate of California Baptist University, where I pursued my BA in cultural anthropology. I love learning and exploring about the intersections of culture and conservation, and I have a deep connection with nature that has allowed me to discover a unique level of inspiration and challenge, both academically and personally. Next slide.
hello? Do you all see the next slide, Isabel's slide?
I don't think Isabel's.
Disconnected. Tell you what, why don't we go forward and then backwards? Is that okay with you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds great. Well, hello everyone. My name is Julian Segovia, and I'm a Maryland native and the son of immigrants from El Salvador and Peru. This summer, I worked alongside Isabel Layton under the mentorship of Gabby Rafi as one of the bilingual interpretive outreach assistants with the Chesapeake Conservancy and National Park Service Chesapeake Bay Office. And I am currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in international relations at the University of Navarra in Pamplona, Spain. This opportunity for me was the best of both worlds. I am very in touch with the Latino community in the Annapolis area and Anne Arundel County. My identity is a huge part of who I am, and I grew up on the Chesapeake and my entire life. So really, this job really for me wasn't really much of a job. It was really just a great experience to give back to my community.
All right, so Isabel's screen is frozen, so we'll let her introduce herself when she comes back in. We'll have her reboot. But for now, Sheila, you can go ahead and talk about your Lost in the Parks project.
Yeah, well, so my project Lost in the Parks was pretty much a creation of really wanting to reach out and understand the communities of the Chesapeake without really having the ability to be there in person. Due to COVID, my internship was strictly virtual. And so I was working on it from the West Coast, which was a huge challenge, but overall an amazing experience. And I wanted to build a common theme within this project in which I could connect the National Park Service, its visitors, and its future diverse visitors. So the 4 categories of my project consisted of my experience of feeling lost in the direction of my internship and the challenges that the NPS and the Chesapeake Bay faced in trying to connect me with those parks on the opposite coast, as well as the NPS struggling to connect and engage the Latinx communities. And so pretty much I researched and assembled the best practices for engaging Latinx communities within these parks. Next slide, please. And so the purpose and objective of Lost in the Parks was to really research and assemble the best practices in Latinx community engagement. And I reached out to national park staff throughout California to gather the best practices that could be potentially modeled in the Chesapeake. Through qualitative research, I conducted interviews with NPS staff and some non-governmental organizations. Next slide. And so the interviews range from topics of culture and nature, community engagement, challenges and barriers. And throughout these topics, the main themes that arose were nature, space, demographics, outreach, the importance of trust, language, discrimination, language, and inclusivity. And so the interviews really allowed me to learn about staff members, and it allowed staff members to give them a chance to express their views on just space, nature, community engagement, and the challenges and barriers from both the park and visitor perspective. And I really got the opportunity to learn about the many approaches that their outreach programs took. Next slide, please. And so one of those perspectives that really truly stood out to me was a program called Aventura Yosemite, which was developed by Laura Goforth. She is branch chief of education and community engagement for Yosemite, and along with her intern, they both used Aventura Yosemite to really look at it through the lens of youth and education as a means to reach out to the community. And so staff quickly discovered that Hispanic visitors avoided contact with park staff, museums, or visitor centers, and they also realized that uniforms, transportation, just getting in and around the park, directions parking were a major challenge. And so they opted out their uniforms, used more of like a casual type of uniform with like t-shirts, khaki shorts. They set up large educational booths in Spanish, and they really made an effort to learn about their visitors and go where the visitors were at, which was mostly the beaches, the barbecue area, and the picnic area. And so all of the interviews really allowed me to learn about the many different approaches. Sequoia National Park used safety, Santa Monica Mountains used culture. And so I got the opportunity to really learn from that. Next slide, please. And so throughout my interview, I really learned that the importance of practicing genuine and authentic efforts to invite, involve, and include. I learned about the importance of respect and trust that comes when doing community engagement and dispelling myths and misconceptions, the importance of truly understanding the outdoor recreation participation of national park visitation within Latinx communities, and I really learned about the use of space and the many different forms that it's being used in. Next slide, please. And then apart from choosing the correct lens, it's always very important to learn how to engage within your community. And so I learned about the importance of taking into consideration the particular barriers and challenges within your specific community. And so it's gonna look a little different for different communities. A park may have the most perfect community engagement plan intact, but if you don't know your community well enough and you're not familiar with the institutional barriers, then there's gonna be like a lack of success, a successful community engagement. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and go back to Julian.
Great. Eliza, if you could go back to Isabel's introduction slide, and then Julian and Isabel can present the work that they were able to do this summer. Thank you, Sheila.
Hi, sorry about that. My name is Isabel Layton, and I'm pursuing, I'm an undergraduate student at the University of Maryland, College Park. I'm studying environmental science with a concentration in anthropology and sociology. This summer, I was one of the bilingual interpretive outreach assistants with Chesapeake Conservancy in partnership with the National Park Service, Chesapeake Bay office. I was homeschooled through 8th grade, so we did a lot of hands-on learning around the Chesapeake Bay area, and also my family's very into like hiking and kayaking and spending time outside, so that's really where I fell in love with nature. I'm a heritage speaker in Spanish. My mother grew up in Colombia, so I learned it alongside English. I've always kind of looked for a way to combine my background in Spanish with my love for the environment. So that's where I'm coming from. If we could go back to the summer 2020 slide.
Thank you, Isabel.
All right. Well, thank you, Isabel, and thank you, Sheila, so much. Well, summer 2020 was very different than summer 2019. As Gabby previously mentioned, I was part of the pilot program for the bilingual interpretive outreach assistants at Sandy Point in 2019. And I was able to be stationed at Sandy Point State Park and was also able to go around to the different Maryland parks that had high visitorship of Latino community to be able to offer them interpretive outreach, and through different programs such as kayaking, painting. As you can see, there's a picture of me at Point Lookout giving a painting program. However, as most things in 2020, we had to adapt and change. So with that being said, I'll pass it on to Isabel to tell you about how we adapted to this new virtual work set.
Like Julian said, we did a little bit, or summer 2020 looked a little bit different with COVID and everything. So a big challenge for our work was finding a way to still connect with the community. And a way that we did that was we focused a lot more on translation work and creating videos as outreach. We also created virtual programs in Spanish, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and to really try and connect with community and work on those relationships, even if we couldn't, all be in big groups out in the parks. Next slide.
Next slide.
So as I mentioned before, one big thing that we did this summer was translations. We did a variety of translations. Some of them were for programs that are already there, like the Chesapeake Bay Junior Ranger book and the Junior Ranger Day in a Bag activities. We also created a handbook of common phrases for parks to help rangers better communicate with their Spanish-speaking visitors, and created a master document of common sign translations for parks. So this is all stuff that can be used this summer and in future summers. In addition, we also did smaller translations like signs and other documents for Patuxent Research Refuge and segments of the National Park Service website.
All right, moving on to outreach. So partnerships are a great way to bridge the gaps and unite resources. Considering the disconnect that the Annapolis Latino community had with the park system, we found it to be a very beneficial partnership to partner with Centro de Ayuda. Centro de Ayuda is a nonprofit that serves the Latino community in the greater Annapolis area by providing them legal resources, professional development for adults and teenagers, along with simple after-school activities for kids. So we were able to go into Centro de Ayuda and offer them professional development seminars for their younger kids as in middle school age to high school, so young adults. We were able to give them a session on professional development, tell them a little bit about what Isabel and I do at our job, and let them know the importance of building a proper resume, how to set up a LinkedIn, pointers on networking, career paths, and just general advice, because high school and middle school is hard. So we had to help them out and just let them know that it gets better and there's plenty of opportunities out there for them. Being that Isabel and I work in the environmental field, we let them know about the opportunities and internships that are available to them. Oftentimes, our community is often overlooked, especially within Maryland, and that's just something that is just the reality of things. And hopefully through these programs and through outreach like this, talking to students, getting to know them, and really talking to them, asking them what they are interested in, we're able to bridge gaps and provide opportunities for these people, for these kids, so that they have something to look forward for, so they have something to do after school, they have something to do during the summers, they have somewhere to start their career. So the best way to unite resources and people together, and it was a great opportunity. The kids were amazing, and I think it was a great event that we had. Next slide. Very well. So moving on with videos. So as Isabel previously mentioned, summer was a little different. So we will usually be in the parks doing programs as we did during the pilot year. However, the idea that we had was basically take these same interpretive programs that we were doing over the summer and make them into videos. So we did things from sling netting, painting, went all over the different types of parks all around Maryland and filmed videos in English and Spanish and some in Spanglish as well. And we're able to really provide resources for everyone. These can be used in classrooms, these can be used personal use, and they're just nice, fun, short videos that we made. We even, for Latino Conservation Week, we were able to put together a roundtable that is still online if anyone's interested. Basically, we got in contact with young professional Latinos in the environmental field, got together and just talked about what it means to be Latino in conservation, the things that we face, and where we hope to see the Latino community in a few years from now. So with that being said, we have a quick example of our sling netting video. So if that could please be played.
Hola, me llamo Julian.
Y yo me llamo Isabel.
Y estamos aquí en parte con el Chesapeake Conservancy y National Park Service Chesapeake Bay Office.
Hoy estamos en Sandy Point State Park en Annapolis, Maryland.
Y vamos a demostrar cómo usar una red de cerca para pescar. Quédate con nosotros para ver cómo se hace.
Una red de cerca es usada para pescar. Para usar una red de cerca necesitas 2 personas. Sin embargo, una tercera persona es útil para agarrar la red cuando sales del agua, asegurando que no salen los peces. Los biológicos marinos utilizan las redes de cerca para tomar encuestas sobre las especies que habitan ciertos cuerpos de agua. En nuestro caso, conseguimos una escuela de pejerreyes atlánticos. Es muy importante que regresen los peces al agua lo más pronto posible y, por favor, ten en cuenta que esos peces son parte de Chesapeake. Cuídalos con respeto y dignidad. Gracias y estén atentos para ver más videos.
All right, so that was one example of the videos that we made this summer. I didn't know that was a Spanish video. I thought it was the English one, but either way, it's, as you can see, they're very short videos, very quick and informative, just to get people interested in knowing different types of activities you can do around the Chesapeake and how to recreate in the parks. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. All right, and with that being said, that concludes our presentation. We have our contact info up on the top left, and I would just like to say, as a personal experience, this has been a very eye-opening experience these past 2 years, working under Gabby, working with the National Park Service, Chesapeake Bay office, and working with the Chesapeake Conservancy. I've learned so much through this opportunity. I'm currently studying international relations, but however, I feel like this opportunity in the environmental field helped me so much because I realized how important the environment has to do with everything in the world. And I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that have been afforded to me due to this internship. So thank you so much, Gabby, and everyone else that's been a part of my experience.
Thank you, Julian, Sheila, and Isabel. Sheila and Isabel, do you have anything else you want to say? And then we'll get into Q&A.
Yeah, so I feel like Julian as well. My experience within this field has been mind-blowing. I learned so much, and I also learned a little bit about how anthropology complements the environmental field, which was what I majored in. And so I love learning about the importance of that like biosocial approach. And I'm really thankful also for programs that actually gave me the opportunity to be where I'm at right now, because you know, when I was young and I knew that I wanted to work within the parks, I never knew how difficult it was going to be. Thankfully for, I'm very thankful for, you know, people like Brittany and Gabby that really helped me through the process of that.
I can go off that. I always kind of ended up in environmental science. I would start down to different career paths and then kind of always end up outside with my hands in some mud. So that worked out. And within the field, I had been struggling with like what exactly I wanted to do. I kind of switched from policy to programming. And I think that this summer, more than anything, fully solidified that this is what I want to do and that this is kind of the branch of environmental science that I want to go into, especially being able to connect it with Spanish, because I feel like those were two very parts of my identity that I had kept very separate. So it was really nice to see them all kind of come together. So thank you so much for this opportunity and everything.
Thank you all for your amazing presentation. That everyone now understands why they are such inspiring humans to work with. They really took a difficult situation of working virtually, trying to connect with the community. They took it and ran with it in super creative ways. And hopefully you all learned some pieces that you can take back to your sites and to your communities. And I've seen some questions in the chat about where can you find these resources. These were created to be open source so that it can be utilized by anyone at any park or at any site. So we are more than happy to share their wonderful resources with everyone here. And there was a question to add your email into the chat box so that we can be emailing with each other directly. So we are going to take a few questions. I saw Sheila answered one in the chat already, but maybe you can speak to it from your own experience about the fact that a lot of Spanish-speaking visitors feel uncomfortable around uniforms. Julian, I know you were specifically in the park and you were working with some park rangers, but you weren't wearing a uniform. So perhaps you could.
No, luckily I was just wearing a t-shirt because those uniforms, man, the way that those rangers were sweating all summer, I couldn't. Right? Yeah, so I was in Sandy Point State Park for most of the summer because Sandy Point State Park is I'm pretty sure it's the Maryland State Park with the most Latino visitors, and that park is always extremely busy. So I was able to be in the park and kind of be a medium between the rangers that were there and the park visitors, and just letting the people know that like that the rangers aren't police, that they can't really write you tickets or fine you and stuff like that. Like they're here to help you. They're not here to necessarily like to be like as a police force, like maintaining the park. They're here to make sure that you're safe in the park and that you feel welcome in the park and teach you and provide educational environmental experiences. I think that what Sheila said, like any type of uniform kind of separates you. It definitely creates like some type of boundary between you and the person. And that's not what we want. That's not what environmentalism is about. It's about connecting with people in the park and how to connect people with nature, and that's really what it's all about. So I felt that the time that I was there, I was able to make connections and I was able to break down barriers and talk to the rangers, be like, why do you guys wear your shirts if you can just why do you guys wear like the button-up shirts if you guys can just wear like the DNR t-shirts? And you know, it seems more presentable and like more approachable than it does when you have like your hat on and everything. And some of the rangers took my advice and they were like, yeah, it really helps. So I think that was one great observation that was made by me and Sheila as well in California.
That was an awesome answer, Julian. Thank you. We've got a few more questions. One of them, which I'll just quickly answer, is that have we identified any other locations in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area that we want to continue this programming? And thanks to the success of all of you, this program is growing to multiple Maryland state parks that have high Hispanic Latino visitorship. And we're hoping that this is a model for the rest of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. National Park Service now has a partnership with Corazon Latino that we can really expand this to new communities. And so that will lead me into the next question for you all is how can we search for, and this is from Joanna, how can we search for and find local Latinx communities during COVID?
I think I know from previous years is, and also just working in the park, churches. Churches are a huge part of the Latino community in Maryland. Personally, growing up, I never went to church, but when I would go to Sandy Point, like I would see huge groups of Latinos and they're just there for Sunday service or just like a weekend barbecue with their church. Some of the times where I had like my best programs have been with church groups, and they're very interconnected. They're so strongly interwoven with each other. They know so many people. Church groups are a great way to start for sure, and also just like Centro de Ayuda in Maryland. This is like nonprofits that help Latino communities are also a great way to start.
I took a Spanish class while at university, and we were talking about how certain communities kind of stick together. And my teacher pointed out that especially like if you look at restaurants where there are a lot of like Salvadorian or Peruvian restaurants, that's like a pretty good indicator of kind of that community being there, which can also be found in like elementary and middle schools like around that area.
And that's a great point, Isabel. When we went to recruit these bilingual positions, we went to grocery stores, we went to restaurants, we went to really maybe what you might think is unconventional places to do outreach for recruiting for a position. Usually the Conservancy would just post on Indeed and LinkedIn, but when you want to reach a community, you have to meet them where they are. And you all did that even though it was virtual. So we have 5 more minutes, or 4 now. So some of the questions that have been coming through about what's next for you all. Sheila, you're about to graduate, or you just graduated. Isabel and Julian, I know you're still in school. So what kinds of jobs and internships do you want to see coming out of this? And what do you see for the future of the environmental movement?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a tricky question for me because my old self would have been content with a job, as an interpretive ranger within the National Park Service. But I think that this internship has really helped me gain so much knowledge throughout the summer. and as an undergrad, and I can't really just allow myself to give guided talks within parks. I would love to continue to research about the environmental injustices within communities and break down like the mainstream environmentalist movement and just get more people involved. And I would really like the opportunity to learn with, many different people, from ecologists to botanists and other anthropologists, and even like politicians and educators, and then create programs for communities like the ones we've already created, and just further my education in the environmental issues, but along with social issues with it. And so I really want to learn to study underrepresentation in outdoor recreation participation. So that's kind of where I see my career going, trying to find solutions to the constraints of recreation. And also, I have high hopes for the future of the environmental movement. I would like to see, like I said, more research go into the understanding of outdoor recreation participation, and the visitation of ethnic minorities. I think it's very important for that. So I would love to see more research go into that.
Okay. Just really quickly, I would say connecting the environment to communities that usually aren't or don't like label themselves or don't see themselves as environmentalists, and really showing that like everybody can have a hand in the environment. Julian?
Yeah, I look forward to, currently I'm studying international relations, but I'm looking forward to going back to the United States and studying law, and hopefully being an advocate for the Latino community in whichever way I can as a lawyer, and providing legal assistance.
Thank you all. Just to wrap up, I remember, Julian, after your first summer, you said to me, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. You said to me, I took this job because I thought I would get to hang out on the beach all summer, and that it completely changed your perspective. And you saw a need to connect to the community and how important it was for you to take that on, given your identity and your background. And I'm just so proud of you all. And I can't wait to see what you all do in your careers. I hope that I work for you one day. And I hope that everyone listening here hires you at some point, because you are the future and you are the leaders. And you're just extremely inspiring. So I just want to extend my gratitude to you all.
Thank you so much, Gabby.
Thank you.
It's been a great 2 years.
Thank you, Brittany. And
Thank
Gabby.
Yeah, thank you everyone at NPS, Chesapeake Conservancy, Maryland Department of Natural Resources, everyone. Thank you everyone so much. And all the Montu for this event. Thank you.
Well, you guys are making it really hard to just do some business here at the end. but thank you. You've been incredible. Really, just what a wonderful session. And thank you so much for sharing. Everyone, audience, I'm going to turn on our 5-star feedback poll. So please go over to polls session and take a moment. There's a little red dot there to give your quick feedback on this session. And I'm going to go ahead and also take this opportunity to thank our sponsors. Of whom the National Park Service Chesapeake region is one, and we really thank all of you for coming, and thank you, Gabby, for moderating and putting the panel together. So just a really quick moment of housekeeping. We now have a 10-minute break, and of course the main sort of pre-planned segments of the conference end at noon, but I also really encourage you to stay. We have some amazing roundtables today, and the roundtables will give you, our attendees, an opportunity to turn your audio and microphones, your camera and microphones on, and interact on some really cool questions and topics of discussion. A 10-minute break to grab lunch, a cafecito, do some networking, visit the expo, whatever you need, go to the bathroom, and then please come back at 12, bring your lunch or your snack with you, and join for one of the great conversations we have from 12 to 12:30. There's a limited number of people who can actually turn on their cameras in each session, but you can take turns, and you can also always just join through the chat. So thank you again, panelists. You've been amazing. And thank you, audience.
Ciao todos. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.